Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's so wonderful to have you here at UND Church on the Mountain. Let us stand and sing our song.
Coming
Will the prayer chaplain bring forward the prayer box, please? Excuse me. Traffic jam here.
Well, I tripped this morning and rolled around a little bit, and I came up there, and the look on her face was I was going to do the same thing all over again. Now on to the mic. On our prayer box we put in the back because we wanted where the community is. And it's there. And it's really there to serve us. It's a gathering place for our prayers of the now and for the future, and even prayers for the past. Box doesn't do a whole lot of anything, it just gathers them. It's we who do the praying. We hold them up as a part of the wholeness that they are, part of the wholeness that we are, and the wholeness that is as it is. So it is. Amen.
Thank you, Fred. And now we come to daily word. Healing. I am life. The radiant life of God. When I'm experiencing illness or pain from an injury, I may forget that wholeness is my natural state of being. As I focus on symptoms, the feeling of illness or injury may grow stronger. It's then I remember the truth. I am a living expression of God, created in God's image and likeness. Divine life, the very life of God, is my spiritual inheritance. In prayer, I align my thoughts and feelings with the power of life. As I move deeply into prayer, any lingering thought of illness or injury dissolves. With my faith-inspired vision, I see the energy of the life circulating everywhere in my body, bringing renewed vitality. Every cell of my body glows with the power of life. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. John 10, verse 10. Let us all prepare ourselves to say together our precious Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
So I would invite you now to close your eyes. Take in some deep breaths. Feel your feet. Feel your seat. And just lightly put your attention at your heart. As you breathe in God is love. And as you breathe out, confirm I am love. And then as you breathe in again, we are one divine love. Feel how that feels let's sit with that feeling just for a moment. You breathe in again and come back into your space, fully present. Breathe in again. We are one divine love. And so it is. Good morning. So happy to see all of you this morning and to get to share a little bit of my recent journey. So David, I have to ask, do I get to turn this on or do you do it?
All you have to do is hit your button.
Okay, thank you. I haven't done this in a couple months. I've forgotten how. Ah, there we go. Pilgrimage into silence. I would just be curious, who's done a pilgrimage before? An official pilgrimage or an unofficial pilgrimage? All right, several have done unofficial ones. Well, you know, the first time I heard about pilgrimage, I read about it, and I read that it's long, that it's difficult, and that it's arduous. Now I have another question. Did any of you experience that when you went on a pilgrimage? I didn't find it to be that. I've done several pilgrimages in several different ways, and this particular month, I took the whole month. For some of you don't know, I took the whole month. I went to Ocean Springs, and people say, oh, and then I say Mississippi, and they say, oh. Well, let me tell you, it's one of the most charming little places I have ever been, and I loved my entire time there. So I had a plan. Not too long before this trip started, I had a meditation in which Spirit said very clearly, trade your plan for presence. And I heard that, but I still had a plan. So the plan was, Mike and I were going to go down, spend a week together exploring. Now he grew up in South Mississippi. This wasn't really a big deal to him. It was a big deal to me because I hadn't been very much to the coast, especially not for a long time. Then a week after we got there, he was going to leave because he didn't want to be there and be in silence. So he was going to leave me for 2 weeks, and I was going to be in silence and solitude and stillness. And they had to be some decisions about what does that look like. I didn't know. I had done some silence before, but you get to decide how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. So first I decided that I should set an intention. And I guess my overriding intention was to see how much ego I could let go of. But I also wanted to know, what is a real pilgrimage about? And this is what I found. Many definitions. And I think for me, I was looking for greater, deeper meaning. I'm sorry, I'm in your way, aren't I? And some expanded consciousness, which to me means more heart awareness, more time in the field of love. And what does that look like when you're in solitude and stillness and silence? And we have all these ideas about what love looks like, I think, but we don't really know, do we? Now, most of us don't really know, because we spend so much time in this physical, horizontal world. And so it's a challenge to go deep into silence, to be in solitude and have some guidelines that may or may not work because I might have to give up my plan. So it was interesting. So I hit the wrong button. Richard Rohr told me the easiest way to enter into the heart is in the silence. And there's a certain amount of stillness that comes with that. The solitude part is a little more challenging because one of my activities that I chose for myself was to make sure I took a good walk every day, at least once, twice if I could. And I did, most days I did. The weather wasn't always as cooperative as I wished it was, but I had to trade my plan in. I couldn't always have sunshine and pleasantries. So I learned something about Ocean Springs that's important to know, that the people there are so incredibly friendly, it's very hard to stay in a solitary place inside. So I had a little plan of how I'm going to do this. So first I put a sign on my door to my little cottage, and I basically said, occupant is in silence, sacred silence, the dates that I had, and then thank you for your respect. I only had to use that twice. Once was the landlady who already knew because I told her. The second was the lady across the street who wanted to make friends, and I just couldn't speak to her if I honored myself. But she was respectful, so that worked out. But then one day I walked down to the beach, and they have a park there that has a sort of a gazebo thing where you can sit on a bench. So I had thought, okay, I'm going to go at a time of day most people are not out there, right? So I found this little place, there's nobody around. I sat down on a bench, and I'm looking out at the ocean, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. And this man is offering me a cup of coffee, which I can't drink anyway, but so I did this. He looked really confused, but he turned and walked away with his cup of coffee. He had some friends over there that they were all having coffee. So that's the only time I had to implement that part of the plan. But it was really an incredible experience. One of the things, if you can read that very last part of that, you let go of your rebellious heart and addictive body. Well, that wasn't quite the way I planned it too, as far as my addictive body, because my body is in charge of my hunger. And I eat when I'm hungry. I would tell my body, you're not really hungry, and it would insist that it was. So I didn't overcome that part of my plan. Just confess right away. So I decided to give my account in 3 phases. We're going in, staying in, and coming out. Now 2 weeks is a long time to stay in, especially when you're trying to be in the world a little bit too by taking walks, etc. So the first thing is trust the process, because there's going to be things that I couldn't have even anticipated, such as the man with the coffee, and there's going to be things that don't fit my idea of what a pilgrimage really is. And so how can I honor my clear intentions and not offend anybody or not reject anybody, and you know, that whole scenario. So my clear intention was be silent, totally silent, which for me meant, at least for the first week, no television, no telephone, no talking, and no listening to people. That worked pretty well, most of the time. Being flexible is not as easy as I thought it would be. I'll just say it that way, because, and Mike said to me, he said, I was concerned about meeting people and they would want to engage me. And he said, well, you could just come out for a minute, say hello, go back in. But how many times a day could one do that? I mean, I must have encountered 70 people every day if I was in the, the main part of the day. So I didn't think that was really honoring me. So I just tried to keep my head down, watch my feet, and not see people so much. But then I thought, that doesn't feel right. People, it feels funny to me. So then what I started doing was I would do this. And it was amazing how people responded to that. They loved that. They wondered, I'm sure, why I didn't speak, but they just loved this waving and smiling. So that worked out really well and kept me in my integrity. The one thing I never thought about, didn't even occur to me, it was Mardi Gras. I didn't know it was Mardi Gras. I'm not Catholic. I don't even know much about Mardi Gras. But it turns out that their first parade of the year happened to be on Saturday morning, which I had said I'm going into silence at 8 o'clock. The parade was at 1 o'clock. How does that work? Well, I begged Mike, please stay until 1 o'clock. Go to the parade with me, and then I'll go into silence. And he said, I have done so many parades, Mardi Gras parades, I have no interest. There's nothing in it for me. He left. So, I'm wearing the beads for a reason. I did go to the parade. I didn't know much about Mardi Gras. I knew there was such a thing. I know Huntsville's even been doing a parade for like 4 years now, but I don't go to them because I'm not a parade kind of person. But I was very curious, so I went. I found a little spot, and you know, it was lovely. There were children playing all around. There was lots of humanity happening. So I got the deepest human experience that I could get before going into silence. But I want to share something. Do you know what green stands for? I didn't. It's for faith. The purple is for justice. And the gold is for power. Those are the traditional colors of Mardi Gras. Of course, they use them all. And you might see I had I think I got 44 strands of beads, along with a green rose and a kiss on my cheek. So I really then wanted to understand, because people, they weren't really dressed up like I had seen on movies and things. So I kind of wanted to understand. So before I went into silence that afternoon, I went online and I investigated. I found out this little town of Ocean Springs was founded as a settlement the same year that Mardi Gras was declared to be a Mardi Gras, 1699. It was a French settlement because they were trying to keep the Spaniards out of that part along the coast. I was telling Lucy this morning, if you go from New Orleans to Mobile, about 2/3 of the way toward Mobile, that's the little town of Ocean Springs. And its claim to fame is the famous artist, and at least famous in some circles, Walter Anderson. I didn't know a lot about him, but I know a lot more now than I ever wanted to know. But anyway, in this little town, it was a French settlement called Fort Maripas. There's two different ways I heard it said, Maripas and Maripas. I like Maripas. And King Louis XIV declared that Mardi Gras would be a celebration, and it would be a preparation, because he was Catholic, very heavily Catholic, it would be a preparation for self-examination and any repentance needs that you have during the Lent season. Well, it turns out all of that king cakes and all that stuff was practical, at least in the beginning. They didn't have refrigeration the way we do today, so they had to eat up their butter and their eggs and their milk. So what do you do with butter and eggs and milk? You make pancakes and cakes. So it became sort of a tradition then. But there was still a lot more, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on Mardi Gras, but just to give you the sense of, it was nothing that I expected. So the king cake, I understand, is an oval ring, and there's a little baby inside. I never understood that, and I think I do better now. So the oval was declared by the king to be an intention of unity among all religions during the time of holy days. The baby was a reminder that baby Jesus could unify all the traditions. And all the traditions, all the major traditions that we know of, all have some form of pilgrimage, I've learned. It's a little different here and there, and there's no set way, except apparently when King decided it was going to be a certain way, it was. The other thing I did not know, I thought bourbon was whiskey made in Kentucky. That's how much I knew about bourbon. I found out that King Louis was in the Bourbon dynasty. His family the last name was Bourbon. Some of you you history buffs may know that, but I never liked history, so I didn't. Anyway, the fleur-de-lis, which is so famous now for New Orleans and some of the other things, was part of the Bourbon flag. There were 3 originally on the original Bourbon family flag. And the 3 petals of that flower represent, let's see if I can remember it, wisdom, faith, and chivalry. And it was said to be the qualities assigned to the Virgin Mary. Now, I don't know how much of that stuff is based in fact or how much of it's been, but anyway, it was fascinating to me. And the other thing is, did you know that when a king or a queen is given power, they are considered to be divinely placed? And this particular king was, in his coronation, he received a fleur-de-lis scepter on his forehead as clear sign that he was divinely brought to this position. So that was just first day. Now, I'm not going to go into that depth for all the days, okay? But I just wanted to set the scene. So the little green flower, I don't know what the green means except faith, as they have said it, but I was privileged to get one with a kiss on the cheek. So you consider all the basic necessities in the beginning, and then you unplug, and so that afternoon I did that, did all the things that I thought I could do. So Mike was worried about, well, what if there's an emergency? You're not talking, you're not answering your phone, what do I do? So we made up a little agreement that twice a day, morning and evening, we would send each other a text symbol, not words, just a symbol. That worked really well. Almost all the time. What did I decide to take? I decided to take my little Richard Rohr. I love this little book. Uh-oh, gotta make noise with my beads. Called Just This. And the class that I started taking with you guys that I couldn't finish because I wasn't here, this book, so I could keep up. So I'd like to read a little something from both of them. I found this welcoming prayer in his little book. I had found it before, but I didn't know it was in his little book till I got near to the end. But here's the prayer that he suggests that everybody start every day with. He suggested reading it out loud, but I didn't do that part. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I welcome everything that comes to me today, because I know it's for my healing. I welcome all thoughts, feelings, emotions, persons, situations, and conditions. Does that cover about everything? I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for affection, esteem, approval, and pleasure. I let go of my desire for survival and security. I let go of my desire to change my situation, condition, person, or myself. I open to the love and presence of God and God's action within. Amen. Now that was a tall order, let me tell you. First of all, to observe the thoughts and to realize how much ego is in my thoughts. And then to try to divert my thoughts without trying to change myself. The little green book is my journal, and that I would write down the important stuff, I thought, and I did a fair amount of that, but I found I didn't even want to write. I didn't even want to use words to write. I just wanted to be in the love and the silence and the awareness. So I would encourage you to try it. I'm not sure that right here in this moment's a good time, but let's try it for a minute. If we don't say anything for just a moment, what do you hear? What did you hear? Clock ticking. Clock. Yeah. Did Did everybody hear the clock? It's pretty loud when there's nothing else happening, but you don't even notice it usually. I don't think I've ever noticed it ticking before. What else?
Heard the wind, the air.
Okay, the air conditioner, yeah, okay. What else? Ah, you become more aware of your breath. I became more aware of my body too. How about, did you? Yeah. And did anybody hear traffic up there?
A little bit.
A little bit, not too much. Did you hear the projector running back there? Did you hear anybody else breathing besides yourself? I didn't hear that either. I'm just asking. So the other part that I wanted to read is from the book about stillness, just a little bit, from Heart Intelligence. Some of you who did the class probably remember it. Many spiritual cultures agree that inner stillness creates an energetic environment for supporting our advancing consciousness, which can unleash the transformational power of our love. Love is transformational, and really this talk is really about love. This was in my bedroom when I arrived at the cottage, and so I took it to heart on day one. Just relax into it. And that's a pretty long little quote. Mostly I did it to reinforce that solitude for me was the right thing to do. Maybe not for everybody. I have a friend who went on her own pilgrimage into silence, in her definition, a short 3 days or so. And she said, "But I didn't do it the way you did." I said, my way is not the way. My way is just Wanda Gail's way. But you get to become aware of things that you wouldn't otherwise become aware of. At least I did, because I'm not as present in the moment to moment as I would like to be. It was a definite practice in being present and not thinking about how long the day was or how short the day was, but I did have to think about, do I want to wear my coat today because some days were cold? You know, those kinds of things you have to think about. But I didn't want to think about practical stuff every day. I wanted to think about our divine inner awareness. So solitude helped a lot with that. And then staying in. What am I going to do about the distractions? Well, I've already told you some of that. What's my priority and who else might be impacted? I really did feel for the guy with the coffee, because he didn't understand and there was no way I could tell him unless I came out of silence. But I sent him a little loving prayer, and I hope that he felt it somehow that day. Dragonflies for me are about transformation. They're sort of a spiritual symbol, I guess you could say, in a way. So I decided every day to let Spirit be the guide. This was the first thing I saw when I looked at the little house when I started in. And I have I could go on and on about my list of dragonflies, but I also had my bookmark that my daughter had given me that is a dragonfly that I didn't even notice until I got there and started, and I said, oh, there's another dragonfly. So Spirit was definitely hanging out with me, trying to show me that transformation is necessary. And be open to surprises. One day, there was a lovely little Episcopal church there, just the epitome of the old-timey white church steeple, the whole thing. And as I got near, I always looked at it from a distance as Mike would drive by in that first week, but when I started walking, I spotted it up close, and I had a relationship with it, and I found this in their backyard. And it's a small labyrinth. But you can do such a wonderful meditation with a labyrinth if you choose. Have you been to the labyrinths here in the Huntsville area? There's several.
Yeah.
And my favorite one, just in case you care, is up on Montesano, the Methodist Church, Montesano Methodist Church. It's an earth labyrinth. I think it's a 7th Circuit earth labyrinth. This one's small, so you could almost get dizzy if you didn't walk very slow. But it was a nice surprise, and it was not in my plan, and that was wonderful. So there were a lot of things that weren't in my plan that I just adjusted to with as much grace as I could. And then coming out, when I went in, I decided it was going to be 2 weeks. But Spirit said this. Spirit said, the silence will tell you when it's done. I said, oh, that'll be interesting. How's the silence going to tell me? And you know, I woke up on day 12 and I felt it. I can't explain it, I just felt it. But that wasn't my plan. 14 days was my plan. So I had to remember, trade your plan for presence. There were some reasons why that I won't even go into, but several texts came in that I couldn't even anticipated that this person would have even texted me, much less on that particular day. So I just went with the flow. Who did I want to speak with? Well, of course, my husband. I hadn't talked to him in nearly 2 weeks, and it was his birthday. So I called him on his birthday as a nice little surprise. You know, he pretends he doesn't like it, a big deal, but he loved getting a phone call. He loved it that some friends thought enough of him to invite him for dinner and make him a cake that had his name on it. And you know, he took a picture of it, and he shared the picture, and he said, I don't think I've ever had a cake with my name on it before. I said, oh, you mean besides our wedding one? Actually, it was just a picture on our wedding one. But anyway, I found it a little challenging to reintegrate into life in a speaking world, in a busy world. I found that I still needed some periods of every day for a few days. And then, let's see, that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Mike didn't come until Sunday, so I did have a little transition time before I was like in close proximity to somebody all the time. And even when he got there, and we were delighted to get together again, but I found myself needing to pull away some and go into my space and just be. And he's very much a doer, and doing is a meditation for him. But for me, I needed to pull back in a little bit. And thankfully, he's wonderful. He understood that. And he said, take your space. So I did that. Almost every day I made a mandala. This was my coming out mandala. You can't see it very well because it's a terrible picture. But right in the middle is a dragonfly surrounded by this big heart. And what did I learn? Well, this is a recap of the primary things that came up. Resist nothing. Be grateful for everything. And love everybody. And then remember, all is well, all the time, no matter what.
Reverend Wanda, Gail, that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that very precious and sacred experience that you went through. All right. Ready for our next song? Stand. Silence, there is peace. Silence, there is unspoken joy. In the silence, there's release from a world filled with chaos and noise. I awake to